There's a video. And this is after many, many months. So I finally got back to it. Episode 35 of Richard Adams' Watership Down. Done badly by you-know-who. And this is going to be bad. All right. So it's been months since I did this. So I got to get back to it. I got to get my ass in gear. Episode or chapter 35. Groping. Groping? Groping. 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 People prefer groping. Okay. And then before the Mark souffle, said Serville, I always have a runner have a look at the weather. The previous Mark sent a runner, of course, to say when they're going down, and he reports the weather. So I always go and have a look for myself as well. In the moonlight, we put the sentries fairly close in and keep on the move ourselves to make sure no one goes too far. But in the rain or darkness, we send the Mark up in small groups, one after another, and each group has a sentry in charge. In absolute desperate weather, we ask the general's permission to postpone the souffle. Postpone going out and eating some grass or smoking grass. But do they often try to run away? Asked Bigwig. During the afternoon, he's been up and down the runs and the crowded burrows with Serville and Evans, the other Mark officer, and had thought to himself that never in his life he's seen such cheerless, dispirited lots of rabbits. They don't strike me as a very difficult bunch. Most of them are no trouble, it's true, says Evans. You never know when trouble's coming. For instance, you have said there's more no docile lot in Africa than the right flank. Then one day we get these poor Halisel wished on them by the council. And the next evening, Bugloss isn't so very quick on the upkeep for some reason. And suddenly these Halisels played a trick on him and bunk. That's the end of him. To say nothing of poor old Sharlock, killed on the Arm Road. When something like that happens, it happens like lightning and isn't always planned. Sometimes it's more like a frenzy. A rabbit tears away at impulse, and if you don't knock him over quick, the next thing you know, the 3 or 4 more will be off after him. Only safe is to watch all the time when you're above ground, and do your own relaxing when you can. After all, that's what we're here for. That and the patrols. Now about Barry Hurricane, said Serville. You can't be too strict. If the general finds any Hurricane in the field, he'll stuff your tail down your throat. They always try to dodge burying, though. They want to be natural, the antisocial little beasts. They don't realize that everyone's good depends on everyone's cooperation. What I do is I set up 3 or 4 of them to dig a new trough in the ditch every day as punishment. You can nearly always find someone to punish if you try hard enough. Today's squad fills up yesterday's trough, digs another. There's always special runs leading to the bottom of the ditch, and the mark have got to use those and no others when they go out to pass from Raqqa. Going out and passing some shit. Eat your pellets and have some rabbit shit. At least I don't have to worry about hemorrhoids, the little fuckers. We keep a Haraka sentry in the ditch to make sure they come back. Wow, a shit sentry. Pulling guard duty in a dugout latrine out in the field. A shit sentry. Haraka sentry. How do you check them after Souffle? Asked Bigwig. Well, we all know them by sight, replied Serville. And we watch them go down. There's always 2 entrance holes on the mark. One of us sits at each end of the holes. Every rabbit knows which hole he's to use, and I should certainly miss any of mine who doesn't go down. The sentries come in last of all. I call them down when I'm quite sure that all the mark are down. And once they're down, of course, they can't very well get out. With a sentry at each hole. Digging as I should hear. If not, we're not allowed to dig an aprica without permission from the council. It's really dangerous time is when there's an alarm, say a man or a fox. Then we all bolt for the nearest hole, of course. So far, it doesn't seem to have occurred to anyone that he could bolt the other way. It would be quite a long start before he's missed. Still, no rabbit will bolt towards Ilil. And that's the real safeguard. I don't charge towards the enemy. Fuck it. Well, to get away from being tortured in Africa and beaten up, or take your chance running at the fox. I'm going to run at the fox. Well, I admire your thoughtfulness, said Bigwig, thinking to himself that his secret task seems to be even more hopeless than he expected. I'll get the hang of it all soon as I can. When do we have a chance of a patrol? I expect the general will take you on patrol himself to begin with, says Evans. He did me. You may not be so keen. He'll have you for a day or two with him. You'll be quite worn out. Still, I admit, Delilah, you're a fine size, and you've been living rough for some time. You might manage it all right. At this moment, a rabbit with a white scar across his throat comes down the run. The neck mark is going down, Captain Serville, sir, he said. It's a beautiful evening. I should make most of it, imitating the fucked up throat. I was wondering when you were going to show up, replied Serville. Tell Captain Same Wine I'm bringing up my mark at once. Turning to one of his own sentries close by, Serville told him to round the burrows and send everybody up for souffle. Now, he said, Evan should go to the far hole as usual to lay like and Johnny at the nearest one. We'll send 4 sentries out on the line to start with, and when the mark is all gone out, we'll add 4 more and keep them reserve. I'll see you in the usual place by the big flint in the bank, whatever the fuck that means. Bigwig followed Serville on the run down which came the scents of warm grass, clover, and hop trefoil, whatever the hell that is. We're going to start the flowers and the plants stuff again. He had found most of the runs closer and stuffier than he was used to. No doubt because there's so few holes into the open air. This prospect of the evening souffle, even in Ephrata, was pleasant. He thought of the beech leaves rustling above the far-off honeycomb and sighed. I wonder how old Holly's getting along, he thought. Whether I'll ever see him again. Or Hazel either, for a matter of that. Well, I'll give these blighters something to think about before I'm finished. I do feel lonely, though. How hard is it to carry a secret by yourself? They reached the mouth of the hole. Ooh, wow. A lot of pages. I got a lot of pages to do. Hopefully my voice... God damn! Damn, dude. It's a long one. Then his mouse low and Servo went outside to look around. He returned. He looked up the station at the top of the run as Bigwig found a place alongside. He noticed for the first time the opposite wall of the run kind of recessed into an open cave. In this, 3 rabbits were squatting. One on either side of had the tough, stoic look of the members of the Auslöffa Council, please. But the one in the middle is the one he stared at. The rabbit had very dark fur, almost black. And this was not the most remarkable thing about him. He was dreadfully mutilated. His ears were nothing more than shapeless shreds, ragged at the edges, and seamed with ill-knit scars beaded here and there with lumps of proud, bare flesh. One eyelid was misshapen and clothed askew, despite the cool, exciting air of a July evening. He seems apathetic and torrid. He kept his gaze fixed on the ground and blinked continuously. After a time, he lowered his head and rubbed his nose on his forepaws in a listless manner. Then he scratched his neck and settled down to his former drooping position. Bigwig, his warm, impulsive nature stirred by curiosity and pity, went across the run. Who are you? He asked. My name is Blackaba, sir, replied the rabbit. He didn't look up and spoke without expression, as though he'd answered this question many times. Aren't you going out to souffle? Said Bigwig. No doubt he thought this was some hero of the Warren, wounded in a great fight and now infirm, whose past services met an honorable escort when he went out. No, sir, answered the rabbit. Why ever not? Said Bigwig. It's a lovely evening. I do not souffle at this time, sir. Then why are you here? Asked Bigwig with his usual directness. The monarch has sent me an evening souffle, sir, began the rabbit. The mark that has they come he hesitated and fell silent. One of the Auslöffa spoke. Get on with it, he said. I come here for the mark to see me, said the rabbit in his lone, drained voice. Every mark should see how I've been punished as I deserve for my treachery in trying to leave the Warren. And now the council was merciful. The council was merciful. The council... I can't remember it, sir. I really can't. He bursted out, turning to the sentry who spoke. I can't seem to remember anything. That was his burst. I can't remember anything. The sentry said nothing. Bigwig, after staring in shocked silence for a few moments, rejoined Serville. He's supposed to tell everyone who asks, said Serville. But he's getting sort of stupid after half a month of it. He tried to get away, and Campion caught him and brought him back, and the council ripped up his ears and said he would have to be shown at every morning and evening souffle as an example to the others. But if you ask me, he won't last much longer. He'll meet a blacker rabbit than himself one of these nights. Bigwig shuddered, partly at Servil's tone of callous indifference and partly of his own memories. The mark was filling up now, and he watched as they went past, each darkening the entrance for a moment before hopping under the hawthorn. I don't even know what the fuck a hawthorn is. What is it, a tree or a plant? It's clear that Servil prided himself on knowing his rabbits by name. He spoke to Morrison and went to the pains to show that he had come to some knowledge of their personal lives. It seems to Bigwig that the answers he got not particularly warm or friendly. Now, he did not know whether to put that down to dislike of Servil or merely lack of spirit. That seems to be common to the rank and file in Africa. He was closely on the watch as Blackberry advised him for any signs of disaffection or rebellion. But he has seen little grounds for hope in expressionist faces and went by. In the end, came to a little group of 3 or 4 does talking amongst themselves. Let's see if I can do the female voices. Well, are you getting along all right with your new friends? Nelthita. That's the name of the rabbit, Nelthita. Said Servil as she passed him. The doe, a pretty, long-nosed rabbit, was no more than 3 months old, stopped and looked at him. You'll be on yourself one day, Captain, I dare say, she replied. Like Captain Malo. He got on, you know. Why don't you send some does on wide patrol? Question mark. She paused for Servil to reply, but he made no answer and did not speak as the does followed Nelitha out into the field. What does she mean by that? Asked Bigwig. Yeah, well, there's been some trouble, you know, said Servil. A bunch of does in the near 4 started a row at a council meeting. The general must have broken them up, sent the couple to us, but we've been keeping an eye on them. They're no trouble themselves, but Nelitha taken up with them and seems to have made her cheeky and resentful. Sort of thing in this you just saw now. I don't really mind that. It shows that they feel the alzas on top. If the young does become quiet and polite, I should be much more worried. And I should wonder where they're all up to. All the same, Thaleli, I'd like you to do what you can to get to know those particular does and bring them a bit more in line. Right, said Bigwig. And by the way, what are the rules about mating? This guy's thinking about ass already. Okay. Whew. And rabbits last what, 5 seconds? Yeah, what's the rules about my 5 seconds, bro? Oh, okay. Mating, said Servil. Well, if you want to know, you have one. Any doe in the mark, that is. We're not officers for nothing, are we? The does are under orders and none of the bucks can stop you. That's bunny rape. Bunny rape, right? Sex slaves. I can do you, but those 3 guys, they can't do shit about it, bro. And that leaves you, me, and Evans. We should hardly quarrel. There's plenty of does after all. I see, said Bigwig. Well, I'll souffle now, unless you got any other ideas. I'll go and talk to some of the mark and go around the sentries, get the lie of the land. What about Blackaval? Leave him, said Servil. He's none of our business. The Owlslip Pub will keep him here until the Mark comes back, and after that, they'll take him away. Bigwig made his way across into the field, conscious of wary glance of the rabbits he passed. He felt perplexed and apprehensive. How was he to begin his dangerous task? He must, one way or another, for Kihar had made it clear that he was not ready to wait. There's nothing for it but to take a chance and trust somebody. But who? The Warren, like this, is full of spies. Probably only the general knew who the spies were at. Is there a spy watching him now? I'll just have to trust my feelings, he thought. I'll go around the place a bit, see what I can make any friends. But I'll know one thing. If I do succeed in getting any doughs out of here, I'm going to take that wretched blanket bar with me as well. Frith on a bridge. It makes me angry to think of him being forced to sit there like that. General Boomworth, indeed. A gun is too good for him. Nibbling and pondering, he moved slowly over the open meadow into the evening sun. And after a while, he found he was approaching a small hollow, much like the one on Watership Down where he and Silver had found Kihar. This hollow, there were 4 does with their backs to him. He recognized them as the little group who had gone out last. They apparently finished the hungry, intense stage of feeding while browsing and talking at leisure. He could see one of them had the attention of the other 3. Even more than most rabbits, Bigwig loved the story, and he felt attracted by the prospect of hearing something new about the strange Warren. He moved quietly up the edge of the hollow just as the does speak. At once he realized there's no story. He had heard the like before somewhere. Rapid air, rhythmic utterance, the intent listeners. That was it, they recalled. Then he remembered the smell of carrots and silverweed dominating the crowd in the great burrow. But these verses went to his heart as silverweed have not. Long ago, a yellowhammer sang high on the thorn. He sang near a litter that a doe brought out to play. He sang in the wind, and the kittens played below. Their time has slipped by all under the elder bloom. The bird flew away, and now my heart is dark. At the time, we'll never play in the fields again. Long ago, the orange beetles cling to the ryegrass stems. A winterly grass was waving. A buck and a doe ran through the meadow, and they scratched a hole in the bank. They did what they pleased, all under the hazel leaves. But the beetles die in the frost, and my heart is dark. I shall never choose a mate again. Wow, a little cryptic. The frost is falling, and the frost falls onto my body. My nostrils, my ears, torpid under the frost. The swift came in the spring, crying, "News, news!" Does dig a new hole and flow with milk for your litters. I shall not hear the embryos return into my dulled body across my sleep. There runs a wire fence to imprison the wind. I shall never feel the wind blowing again. The doe was silent, and her three companions said nothing, but their stillness showed plainly enough had spoken for all of them. A flock of starlings passed overhead, chattering and whistling, liquid dripping onto the grass among the little group. None moved or startled. It seems to taken up the same melancholy thoughts which, however sad, were least far from Ephrathah. Bigwig's spirit was as tough as his body, and quite washed with a sentimentality. Like most creatures who have experienced hardship and danger, he could recognize and respect suffering when he saw it. He was accustomed to sizing up other rabbits and decided they were good for. It struck him that these does were not far from the end of their powers. A wild animal that feels that it no longer has a reason to live reaches in the end at a point when the remaining energies might actually be directed towards dying. It was this state of mind that Bigwig mistakenly attributed to Fiver in the warren of snares. Since his judgment has matured, he felt a despair was not far from these does. And from all he has heard of Ephrathah, both Holly and from Serville, he could understand why. He knew the effects of overcrowding and tension in the warrens shows themselves first in the does. They become infertile, aggressive. But if aggressment cannot mend their troubles, they often begin to drift toward another way out. He wondered what point of this dismal path these particular does have reached. Damn, how much further I got to go? God damn! Holy shit, look at this. This is a long goddamn chapter. It's already almost a half hour. Okay. He hopped down to the hollow. The does, disturbed by the thoughts, looked at him resentfully and drew back. I know you're Nilthala. God, that name. Nilthala, said Bigwig. To the pretty young doe, he retorted to Serville. But what's your name? He went on, turning to the doe beside her. After a pause, she answered reluctantly. Fifth. I'm going to have to spell this. Fifth. Thi. Thu. Thin. Nang. Thithanang. Thithanang. THETHUTINNANG. I don't know what the fuck that is. Can't be a goddamn flower. It should be too long. Oh, it means movement of leaves. The first and last syllables are stressed in the phrase, as in the phrase, once in a way. Okay. And yours, said Bigwig to the doe's spoken verses. She turned to him with such wretchedness and full of accusation and suffering that it was all he could do not to beg her then and there to believe he was a secret friend and he hated Ephrathah, the authority which he would represent. Nilthal's rejoinder to Serville in the run has been full of hatred, but the doe's gaze spoke of wrongs beyond her own power to express. Bigwig stared back at her, and suddenly recalls Holly's description of the big yellow hoodoo that tore open the earth and destroyed the warren, the bulldozer, the tractor. That might have looked like this, he thought. Then the doe answered, my name is Heisenflay, sir. Heisenflay? Said Bigwig, started out of self-possession. Then it was you who... He stopped. It might be dangerous to ask whether she remembers speaking to Holly. But whether she did or not hear, evidently the rabbit who had told Holly that his companions about the troubles of Africa and the discontent of the does. If you remember Holly's story rightly, she had already made some sort of attempt to leave the warren, but, he thought, once again met her desolate eyes. What is she good for now? May we have permission to go, sir? Asked Nelitha. Nelitha. The company of officers absolutely overpower us, you see. And we find a little goes an awful long way. I'm only 3 months old. Oh, yes. Certainly, by all means, replied Bigwig in confusion. Your main worry was the does hop away. Nelitha raised her voice to remark, what a great oaf, and looked around in the vivid hope he would take her up. Oh, well, there's one of them that shows some spirit left anyway, he thought, and he's made his way out to the sentries. He spent some time talking to the sentries and learning how they were organized. It was a depressingly efficient system. Each sentry could reach his neighbor in a matter of moments, and with the appropriate stamping signal, where they have more than one, would bring out the officers and the reserves. If necessary, the Owlslefa could be alerted in almost no time at all. So could Captain Campion or whatever officer might be patrolling the outskirts of the warren. Since only one mark sped at the time, this could be hardly confusion about where to go if the alarm was given. One of the sentries, Marjoram, told him about the escape attempt by Blackenbar. And then I'm going to do his voice. He pretended to feel his way out as far as he could, said Marjoram. And, he might have dashed for it. He actually managed to knock down 2 sentries to try to stop him. I doubt whether anyone on his own could have ever done as much as that. He ran like mad, but Campion had got the alarm, you see. He simply moved around and intercepted him further down the fields. And of course, if you haven't smashed up the sentries, the council might have let him off a little bit more lightly. How do you like the warren life? Asked Bigwig. It's not too bad now I'm in the Owlsla, answered Marjoram. If I get to be an officer, it'll be better still. I've done 2 white patrols now, and there's a thing to get yourself noticed. I can track and fight as well as most. But of course, they want more than that from an officer. I think our officers are a strong bunch, don't you? Yes, I do, said Bigwig with feeling. It has struck him that Marjoram evidently didn't know that he himself was a newcomer to Africa. At any rate, he showed neither jealousy or resentment. Bigwig began to realize that this place nobody has told him more than good for him. And he got to know much except that before his nose, Marjoram probably supposed that he, Bigwig, has been promoted out of another monk. Darkness fell. Whoa. Holy shit. Holy shit. Yeah, we might have to have an episode 2. And yeah, we're going to have ourselves an episode 2. A darkness fell just before the end of Supplé, and Captain Campion came up the field with a patrol of 3. Serval ran out to meet him on the sentry line. Bigwig joined him and listened to the talk. and he gathered that Campion has been far out as far as the Iron Road, but found nothing unusual. This is going to be the end of chapter, Groping. So we're going to have a part 2 of this thing, because this thing is long-winded. So this is the end of episode 35, Groping or Growing, part 1. Then I'll move on to part 2 some other time. Hua. So there you go. A little bit of hua time from Watership Down, done badly by you-know-who.